Hello, team, and welcome to our very first Google Hangout. We are so excited to try this new format and see how it works, and give everybody a chance to actually get on the call and not max out at 100. So I'm super excited to see how many people we have on tonight and see, once given the opportunity, how many of our team members are going to take advantage of this. And as always, I am super excited to be here and have Melissa Martin here with me to help share insight, ideas, and training with all of you. Tonight is our Gold and Above Leadership Call. So if you're not a Gold Ambassador, we're going to ask you to jump off unless you have been specifically invited by one of us for other reasons, or you have been invited to this call for another reason that we have reached out to you for. So if you are not Gold and Above, meet back with us next week, and we will be doing an awesome training then for everyone on our team. So tonight, our subject is team culture, and why is it so very important? You know, it is said that a team is an elongated shadow of their leader, and as a leader, your beliefs, your opinions, your likes and your dislikes will become that culture of your organization. So you need to be careful about what kind of organization you build. So let's just ask yourself, are you a leader who has the following qualities? So the first ones we're going to talk about, are you a leader who brings value, who encourages, who motivates, who supports, who works with your team, who teaches your team and trains your team, who serves your team, is always putting their needs first, who leads by example? Are you the highest recruiter on your team? Do you have a great PV and are always knocking it out of the park? Are you showing them how to be successful? Are you humble, grateful, and appreciative? Okay, that's our first list of leadership. Or are you a leader who is kind of hot and cold, on and off, like you're really strong one month and then you get sidetracked and you back off and then you come back? Are you someone who gets disheartened or causes that amongst your team? Are you a deterrent to your team? Do you tend to derail them or distract them with things when they're really on a great solid path? You try to lead them how you feel like they should go. Do you cause frustration amongst your team? Do you cause them to not want to work, to not want to be their best? Do you work against them? Do you butt heads with them and their vision? Do you neglect them at all? Are you bossy? Do you expect others to do the work while you boss or manage? Are you boastful or prideful because you're the highest ranking person on your team? You know, of course, I'm sure you all feel as though you're the first set of traits, right? It's hard for us to look at our weaknesses. We don't see ourselves in the second set. But I know we all, every single one of us, have traits from both groups. It just depends on how much you have more of. And you may feel that you're really strong and have a lot of the first set of qualities. Your team may feel differently. And a team is only as good as the people in it and the vision their leader has set for them. When you are blessed with team members who are proven rock stars or those who possess that rock star attitude, you've won half the battle. Having that rock star, that positive, productive attitude is so very important. It doesn't matter about the capabilities that people have. It doesn't matter about your skills. Your skills alone without the right attitude will not be enough. And it won't carry you, and it won't carry your team members. If you find yourself being negative or down on yourself, you're not setting a solid team culture, a good, strong team culture for your team. If you surround yourself with other leaders or other team members who panic or don't think before they act, they blame others for a bad situation, they complain when something goes wrong, then you're tainting your own team culture. You're bringing that into your own being. Don't be the voice of panic. Be the voice of calm and reason amongst your team. No matter what the situation, you set the tone. You are the one that decides how your team views something. It can be an utterly chaotic, horrible situation. But if you come in with the voice of calm and reason and you say, okay, we're all going to take a deep breath and just kind of take this in before we start acting, it is going to make a huge difference on your team. As we know, conflicts are inevitable, and it's not about the conflict, but how you as a leader deal with it and manage the situation. You know, the harder conflicts that we have, the more exciting the triumph is, right? When you suffer through something, your team suffers through something, it tests the team dynamic and alters it in either a good way or a bad way. But you ultimately, as the leader, decide how your team is going to take that. What else is important in your team culture are rituals. Rituals are so powerful, and it's a way to keep everyone on track and engaged in the drive and the purpose of your team culture, to keep you all on that track to being successful. So what are some rituals that are very important to have and to instill in your team members? You need to have systems in place. You need to have the processes that produce the results, because results without the processes are not sustainable. If you don't actively know how to do the three-way calls, if you don't know how to reach out to your people, if you don't know how to help those potentials grow, then it doesn't matter if you have people signing up left and right. If that process is happening, and if those results are happening and you're not showing the processes to get everybody where they need to be, it's just going to be an ultimate fail. You need to share feedback early and often, and learn to accept that constructive criticism. I'll tell you, I have people on my team who cannot accept criticism, no matter what it is. And oftentimes I won't go to them with criticism, even if they say, if I'm doing anything wrong, just tell me, reach out to me. But when I have reached out to them, they throw a little temper tantrum, or they get really hurt. And I feel like it does more damage than good. So I will often hold back on that. But once you have learned to accept that constructive criticism and kind of taught yourself how to accept it, you will be so much better, and you'll understand, because oftentimes somebody from the outside looking in can see how your team views you, or will connect with your team. Many times team members will come to me and tell me what their leaders are doing that they have an issue with, but yet they don't feel comfortable telling their leader. But if it's somebody that I feel like I can't go to and say, can we talk about this situation, and I just want to let you know, then that's never going to be shared. So that leader is not necessarily going to grow. You also need, another ritual is to manage your meetings well. Be organized, be short, be focused on the goal. Guys, I've jumped on team calls where it's 20 minutes of hem-haw. 20 minutes of, hey, how are you? How's it going? Da, da, da. That's not productive. And many people are going to stop showing up because it is wasting their time. They can be doing other things. So you need to make it productive and valuable and focused for them. It may be fun to, for you to meet up and talk to everybody, but you need to think about the ultimate goal. You need to also foster collaboration. Don't communicate via email to your team members when you can meet face to face, when you can even Zoom with them, rather than just emailing them, how are you doing? You want to connect with those team members. You want to really see their expressions. You want to work with them and make them feel as important as they are to you. Another ritual is to let your team members play to their strengths and let them shine. Let them really work and show everybody how well they do certain things. Maybe they really struggle at other things, but they have that one or two things that they are really, really strong in. Give them the opportunity to showcase that. Help them build their self-esteem and their confidence in those areas, and then the other areas will come along. And then the final thing in rituals is to let your team members take the lead. Usually when people get to Ruby or senior Ruby, I realize some of you are not even there yourself, but that's the time for people to really branch out and take the lead, to get out from under their upline as much, to not wait for their upline to do something for them, to tell them what they need to do next. When you hit Ruby, you should be deciding, okay, my team needs this. My team needs to go more in this direction. I feel like my team is so much more engaged when we do these things. So I'm going to start doing those things. It's time to branch out and be your own leader.
Yeah. Hey, when you're talking about the criticism, that is such a big one. I remember the change for my business was I was reading the 21 Laws of Leadership, and in that book, he actually encourages you to go to 5 different people, and they would be different people, like your spouse or your parents or sibling or somebody that knows you from a family standpoint, somebody that you work closely with in business, whether it be your Plexus business or your other job, if you have another job. But basically to ask these people, it's like 5 questions. If you guys don't have that book, 21 Laws of Leadership by John Maxwell, you need to get that book. You're gold now. It's time to start looking at where you are as a leader and work on how you can improve yourself. And the criticism, guys, it's hard to give and it's hard to take. But if somebody comes back to you and you've asked them for criticism and they're like, oh, no, you're perfect. No, you're not. And ask them to, hey, will you please reevaluate? Will you please be honest with me? Because I can't improve if you don't tell me where I'm lacking. But be willing to take it, because it definitely makes you look at who you are and where you're at and how you respond, because you may think you respond perfectly when in essence you probably don't. I know I don't. So I think some of the hardest ones for me to hear were from my family members. So I feel like I need to really work on how I handle certain things. So definitely do that. I love that, Hayley. All right, so you guys create the culture for your team. That is what you do as the leader. You kind of set the environment for what the situation is that you work in. So what does that look like? I have 5 tips for you on things that you can do to create a successful culture for your team. I think the first thing you need to have is commitment. And this is a broad term for how you build your team and how you lead your team. So you need commitment. You need commitment to yourself and you need commitment to your team. Imagine if everybody on your team was committed to customer service. They were committed to becoming a product of a product. They were committed to leading their downline, self-development, and they were just committed to success overall. When your team sees you committed, then they're going to be committed to their team. So it's like duplication. You show commitment to your team and then they turn around and duplicate that and they're committed to their team. And that's just an awesome thing when everybody is committed to the business, to the success of others. That's when you start seeing the magic happen in your business. So how can you be an example of commitment to your team? The first thing is show up when you say you're going to show up and do what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to call somebody at a certain time, you need to do it. And if you can't do it, then you need to let them know. Now, I know life happens and sometimes things come up, but really do your best to follow through with what you say you're going to do and do what you say, what you're telling other people to do. But be committed. Help people get started. Help them launch their business, help them find the resources they need to answer questions and things like that. And when you show them the commitment, they're going to learn to do that to the people in their downline who are serious about building the business. And that's when you start finding out who is actually committed to the business and the success. Share, this is huge. I think this is really something that I do with my team. It's kind of, I feel like it's the culture of my team, is we share team goals. Like our team knows exactly what the goal is all the way down in my downline, because I feel like if everybody knows what's expected of the team, then they all feel like they get to do their part and then they all feel important. So this is where you don't become a dictator, but you're a leader. You don't just let your team do all the work. You get down and get dirty with them. You do the work too. There is just something about when you're leader or for me, when I worked in my regular job, when the supervisor would get in there with you and do the work, you just have a whole nother level of respect for that person. And that's what happens whenever you decide to get in there with your team and do what you want them to do. So I think commitment is huge.
Right. And it makes your team respect you so much more. When it comes time for you to promote, your team's more willing to step up and work for you because you've worked with them. If you're that person that says, okay, guys, I want us to be a Ruby team this month and we need 35 people, and they know you're just sitting back waiting for them to add those people, they're going to be less committed to working their side of the business. If they know you're out there and they see you've recruited 6 people already of the 35, they're like, oh, wow, well, she's already done 6. So let me see if I can do at least 1. Makes a huge difference.
It's so big during promotion time too. Exactly what you said, because if you're committed to your team when they're trying to promote, when it comes time for you to promote, they're there. Like they're all about what you need. So definitely commitment is huge, guys. Just commit to the process. It is amazing what happens when you commit. All right, the second tip is to create humility. Create a culture of humility. That's a tongue twister. That is one of my favorites, guys. You've heard me say before the quote by Robin Roberts, when you strut, you stumble. you want a team that is proud. Like, you want to be proud of what you're doing, where you're at, what you've accomplished. But you have to remember that always there are leaders above you and there is a team behind you. And you do not get anywhere in this business alone. That's just not the way network marketing is. So when you start creating this I culture, I did this, I made this happen, I made this happen in so-and-so time, when it all becomes about you, people start to disconnect. In my opinion, that is the quickest way to lose buy-in from your team, is whenever you make it all about I and what I did and how great I am and, oh, I'm Emerald or whatever. Like that is not the way to create a positive, successful culture in your team. Your team knows what you've done. If you're being the leader that you need to be, then your team knows what you're doing. They see you recruiting. They see you having meetings. They see you have a high PV. Like, every one of you should be on the PV recognition at some point in your career. The higher up you go, it's harder to have that PV because your customers become ambassadors, hopefully. But everybody's name should be on that list. And if your name has never been on that list, you want your name on the list. It's pretty cool whenever you see your name, you've been tagged in a post that you've done something great. But again, don't be prideful or boastful about that. Be proud of yourself. Always be proud. You should always be proud of who you are and what you're doing, but you should never be boastful and cocky about it. Like, that's just not the way to be a good leader and to create a culture of people on your team that want to be a part of this with you. They don't want to work with you. You need to recognize your team could be 1 or 2 people that work really hard. You may have 30 people and you have 1 or 2 people, but you still have those 1 or 2 people. So don't ever fail to see that or realize that. All right, the third thing, oh, this is a good one too. Have a culture of winning and not whining. How many whiners do we hear from? I mean, it can get to be a lot when your team starts to grow. You can have quite a few whiners, but you want to really provide the resources and the information for your team so that they become involved and they're not dependent on you. And you don't want to be this person, this leader, where everybody comes to you to vent their frustrations. You definitely want to be somebody that can work with your team members. But if you're a sounding board for 10,000 frustrations and vented conversations, then you need to reevaluate the culture that you've created for your team. So how do you do this? You need to.
Yeah, can I talk about that really quick? It's so difficult as a leader when you have those people that just want to complain. Like, I have people on my team, they need to vent and they vent to their upline. And this is the message they'll send me, is they'll send me a voice message and say, I just need you to listen to this voice message. I just need to speak these words. It's going to make me feel better. And they will vent their frustrations and say, you don't have to reply. Usually I'll reply back with something really quick. I understand, I sympathize, whatever it may be, but they've gotten those frustrations out. And then I'll have those people who are like, why is corporate doing this? And wait for me to answer them. Why is my product not here? It was supposed to be here yesterday. I called yesterday and they said it was supposed to be here today. Whatever it may be. That causes negative among your upline. That causes me to have a negative day. If I am dealing with a negative Nelly over and over and over again, whereas instead of asking those questions and waiting for an answer, reach out to your upline and say, okay, I'm super frustrated. My product's not here. They told me it would be here yesterday. I called. I'm just, it's just really getting frustrating to me. Then your upline has an opportunity to sympathize and empathize with you. But when you are just, demanding the answers and you want that, and we feel like, okay, it's just constant banter, back and forth negativity. It's not a good vibe for anyone. And imagine, as a leader with a huge team, you may have 10 people in one day that are frustrated with something. And if you get 10 people chopping away at you all day long, you're not going to have a good day, and you're not going to be able to uplift the other people that truly need it. So think before you complain. We all need to vent. We all have frustrations, but take a deep breath. Like I said earlier, you need to not panic. You need to show your team how you don't panic. If something's going wrong, take a deep breath, vet it out, and just really say the minimum that you can say to make yourself feel better. There are times I will type stuff out. I will voice message it to myself just because I need to get it out, and I don't want anybody else to have to hear it. But sometimes that's all it takes. So find the outlet for you, but don't expect answers that your upline probably can't provide, because it's probably something that comes from corporate, or probably something out of their control. If it is out of your upline's control, don't expect them to be able to handle it for you.
Yeah, and in that same scenario, don't foster those conversations with your team. If you have the same people that complain and whine constantly, and you continue to listen and even participate in that, then you are just creating a bigger monster than what you already have. So my thing with my team, and they know this, is that it's always, hey, I am more than willing to talk to you about whatever it is, but let's look at it from a solution-based standpoint. What can we do to make it right? What can we do to take care of whatever issue? And of course, people are going to have a bad day, guys, you included. So, let your team members vent, but not constantly, because it almost becomes like the boy who cried wolf. Those ambassadors that always whine and complain about everything, you find yourself not being as responsive because you just don't know what else to say. Like so you have to set that boundary. And exactly what Hayley said, whenever things are happening that maybe are out of your control, or you don't like what's happening, maybe it's stuff that everybody knows about, or maybe it's stuff behind closed doors. You need to focus on the positives. I want to tell y'all this story. Some of you have heard me say before, my youngest daughter is a little on the negative side. And so when she comes home, she always has to give me her positives before she can give me her negatives. Well, they've had dance team tryouts this week, so she's been a little frustrated with some stuff. And she came home yesterday and we were going to go to dinner, and I could tell she was so irritated. And I was like, did you have a good day? And she was like, let me get you my 3 positives so I can tell you what really happened today. And so I was like, but by the time she told me the 3 positives and we got to what she wanted to complain about, basically, she was much more calm. She had focused on the positive things, and she wasn't as fueled as she was when we first saw each other. So try to have that culture for your team where, yeah, things are not always going to go right, but there's always something right. So figure out what that right thing is and focus on that, and then build your solution based on that. So
oftentimes if you as an upline complain about something and your downline hears you, if you're complaining about your order not coming, they're going to be like, it is so bad that my upline is even complaining about it. So they will just take it to new heights. You need to be the example. You don't need to be sharing the things that go wrong in your business with your downline. You don't ever need to be telling anyone that it's okay to complain, that it's okay to bring attention to things that, have happened that are negative. We all have issues. We all have negative things happen, but it's how you deal with them as a leader.
Totally. So how can you make a culture of winning? My thing is that you need to get your team excited about what is happening. Okay, so Hayley's used the example of, your products didn't ship on time or whatever. Okay, but here's a positive, is that sales are up tremendously. So we're doing something right? We're selling products, we're sharing with our friends. Get them excited about sharing what their non-scale victories are, or even scale victories. Get them excited about financials. Guys, $100 a month on the 15th is huge. A lot of people, that is life-changing. Good grief. When I started, honestly, $50 was a big deal. That kind of solidified that this was a legit business, that I was going to actually make money. So find the things to be excited about and to create that culture of winning. Like we're doing something right, and then highlight what that is instead of focusing on the whining. All right. The 4th thing is to create a culture of celebrating and not complaining. And this kind of goes along with what we were just talking about, but I want you guys to start acknowledging your team for what they're doing and celebrate, no matter how small the victory. On my team page today, I did a thing that said, who's recruited at least 1 ambassador and 1 customer this month? Give yourself a shout out. They are all over that post. It's the little things. People like to see their name. They like to get recognition. And as a leader, that's what you can do to create this culture of celebrating and maybe get their mind off of the complaining. You can be like, who's going to convention? Give yourself a shout out. Who's hosted an event this month? But find a way to recognize those positives in your team. And if somebody comes to you to complain, like I said before, redirect it to a question that has a solution. If it's not an issue with a solution-based response that can be applied, you need to shut it down. It's just a waste of time, and it turns into gossip. When you take that culture, you create a culture of celebrating, then you turn that into teamwork, because everybody is congratulating each other and they're excited for, oh my gosh, you've recruited 5 people this month. How did you do that? Like, it becomes a let's work together and let's celebrate together. And when you can create teamwork, then you have something pretty amazing, and your team could be one to reckon with. It could be an unstoppable team, honestly. Let your team see that you will help them and that you have the one Plexus mindset and you're willing to help others within reason. We always have to be income producing, because once you start ranking higher, people want you to be involved in a lot of things. But let your team see that you celebrate victories of other people. Don't be jealous. Don't complain, especially don't complain to your downline, guys. If you're doing that, you need to stop that today. And just remember, teamwork makes the dream work. So you create that culture for your team, and that's something that you really should focus on.
Yeah, and absolutely. And you can sympathize with your team, but you don't empathize with them. And the difference of that, so I heard somebody explain this one time, and I think maybe it was at Mastermind. Sympathizing is when somebody is, let's say they're, and this was the example they used, so y'all bear with me. They're on a boat and they're seasick and they're throwing up, and you go over and you're like, I'm so sorry, you feel bad, I am here for you. Empathizing is when they're hanging over the side of the boat throwing up and you go throw up with them. You don't want to put yourself in that situation. If somebody reaches out to you and says, oh my gosh, I'm so frustrated with the shipping, you don't want to say, I know, I'm frustrated with the shipping too. You want to be the voice of reason. And like Melissa says, when somebody complains and they send you this long, oh my gosh, da 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 da, there are many times I have this, we all have this Debbie Downers. We all have this negative Nellies. They will send me this long Facebook post about all the horrible things happening to them. And I'll write, I am so sorry you are dealing with that. Done. Because the less you respond and the less you feed into that, the less they're going to send back to you. And there's no need to say, oh, I'm so sorry that you've been dealing with that. I know there's been a lot of issues with shipping, but we're working hard and corporate is getting, you don't need to spend all that time, empathizing with them. You need to sympathize with them and move on and show them that, yes, they can reach out to you and they can vent their frustrations and you're going to sympathize with them, but then you're going to bless and release and move on.
Right, definitely. That is definitely it. Bless and release and move on. I'm telling you, there's got to be a time where you shut it down and move on. If not, you get sucked into it and it's not income producing. So be aware of that. And then my 5th tip is leadership. You want to create a culture of leadership on your team. Now, you guys need to know that you set the pace for your team and you set the standard. So just like Hayley said about being a hot and cold leader, don't create a culture of a sometime leader for your team. That is a quick way to lose respect and lose the buy-in from your team. You need to show your team what consistent leadership looks like, not management, leadership. Show them how to be a great leader. You should always be striving to learn more and then be able to pass that on to them, and then they will follow suit. I use this analogy all the time, that I think of myself like a glass of water. And if that glass gets below the top, then I don't have anything left to pour into my team. So I am always looking for things to pour into me so I can then overflow that into my team and teach them and show them. You want to be that person. Like, get to events, watch videos, read blogs, whatever it is that will make you better and help you learn more. That's what you need to be. If you are a sometime leader, you do it when it's convenient for you. You show that it's okay to only lead your team when you feel like it. And that does not gain any respect. So you need to set a consistent pace for your team and that they can follow and duplicate what you're doing. You show up and let your team know that you show up. I mean, don't tag them on a team call and say, oh, get on this call tonight, I can't go. No, that's not what you do. Hey, I want you to get on this call tonight, I'll see you there. But you be there. You show them how important it is to show up and for them to duplicate what you do. I'll say it again. If you do not want a team full of yous, like who you are, then you are doing something wrong. And it's time to reevaluate how you run your business and how you lead your team.
Exactly. And if you have a strong team culture, you're going to have a strong team. You're going to have a team that has full buy-in and is committed completely to each other's success. They are going to be full-hearted, lovingly supporting one another, no matter if that person has ranked up 3 times and they haven't ranked up any. They are going to be compassionate. They're going to have a great camaraderie amongst themselves. And then, how do you know how much team buy-in you have? It's often when it's time for promotions. Think about your last promotion. How many people were working as hard for your promotion as they would work for their own? How many people were messaging you saying, oh my gosh, how close are you? What can I do? What can my team do for you? What can, my 2 people do for you? If you don't have team buy-in, you're more than likely one of those that ends the month with just a few points shy and just can't get them from anywhere. Like there's nowhere to be found. And if you have total and undying team buy-in, you're probably going to go way past that goal you set for yourself. If you thought I might hit Emerald and be like at 1,515 points, and your team has so much buy-in that they have just rallied unbelievably, and you end up with 1,600 points, then that shows how much team buy-in you have.
Yeah, and guys, don't get frustrated with the buy-in. Like if you are if you're a gold or senior gold, even a ruby ambassador, and you are doing all these things and you don't feel like you have the buy-in from the majority of your team, it will come. It's a little harder to get the buy-in early on. So don't get discouraged by that. Again, that becomes something that you don't focus on. Don't focus on that, oh, well, my team's not doing this, my team's not doing that. Remember, the bigger your team gets, the more people you're going to have that are wanting to work the business and have the vision.
Right. And you should be always recruiting those people,
yes.
more people to have more buy-in. You don't want to say, oh, I have 2 strong people with strong buy-in and that's, we're just going to leave it at that. You should always be looking for more strong leaders to help with the buy-in.
Yes, always be recruiting, guys. You always recruit. I don't care what your position is. Hayley and I have been talking this week about how we've been trying to recruit people all week. So you're always recruiting. Even when you feel like you've arrived, you still want to recruit. All right, so you guys know I like to do a reflection at the end. So I want you guys to really think about the culture you have set for your team. And really think about it. Like, don't try to pull the wool over your own eyes, but be honest. You may even want to ask your team, hey, what comes to mind whenever you think of our Plexus team? What's the first thing that comes to mind? And see what the common theme is. Is it encouragement? Is it positivity? Is it fun? Teamwork, success? Those are things that you want to see in that thread. Now, don't complain about the responses. If they don't respond, or if somebody says something that you don't necessarily like, don't complain. Just use this as feedback to adjust the sails of your leadership and get on course to create a thriving culture for your team.
Absolutely. And many times your team may not be completely honest with you because they don't want to cause contention and they don't want to cause any kind of rift, even if they do feel a certain way. So that's why it's so very important to reach out to somebody that's more objective and maybe knows what's going on behind the scenes and can share with you as a leader. We all want to grow. I don't like to hear my criticisms. I don't like to hear my upline, when I go to her and say, okay, what is everybody saying? What's going on? And she'll tell me she's heard this or that. And, that's what I try to work on because I know those are my weaknesses and I try to become stronger in those areas. So how do you set a strong team culture? You, first of all, need to be the example others want to follow. Like Melissa said, if you don't have a team of yous, then, maybe you need to reevaluate. If you would not want to recruit yourself, if you're not a strong enough ambassador that you would be like, that would be my next rock star if I could recruit myself, you need to reevaluate where you are. If you want excellence, you need to be excellent. You can't expect your team to be excellent and you be mediocre. You need to make wise choices. You need to not cause panic and upheaval among your team. You need to be a strong leader. And guys, I have a quote. I don't have it with me right now that I share all the time with my leaders. And it says, leadership is the ability to hide your panic from others. And that is so true. I mean, maybe something comes out and you're like, or you see something and you're like, oh my gosh, I think I need to let my team know this. You need to take a breath. You need to go to your upline and say, hey, I just saw this. I'm concerned that maybe I should let my team know. It's very, offsetting for me. You don't, and here's the thing. You could share it with your team and it could be meaningful to your team. However, there are always going to be people on your team that it's way above their head and too much for them to handle. So you need to look at your overall team dynamic and think, if I shared this and so saw it, how would they react? Maybe it's not something. Maybe you just reach out to your immediate leaders and share it privately. You need to build culture by design and not by default. If you don't have a defined, solid team culture, your culture is going to end up defining itself. If you haven't worked from the beginning as a leader, your team culture builds without you deciding what it's going to look like. And by the time you reach a certain rank, your team culture is going to be a certain way, and you're going to be like, wait, I don't want it like that. That's not my vision. But yet you didn't build it. It defined itself. So that's the time when you have to really regroup and you have to work on making it how you want it. And it's a long process. It takes longer to readjust it than it does to start it in the first place. So start it strong in the beginning. You need to empower your team. You want mini-me's. You don't want minions. Oftentimes, people will want to arrive at a rank and I'm a Ruby ambassador. I am a Plexus gem. That goes back to Melissa talking about not having the I attitude. You're not any better than anyone else because you are a certain rank. I am the rank I am because I have strong leaders that want to be the best they can be, that want to also be at the top of the company. I could not do this all by myself. I am not one person that has made it to Diamond solely by my personal recruits and my personal training and so forth. And nobody in this business does it alone. I don't care who you are. So you have to empower your team. You want them all to be strong leaders. You don't want to have a bunch of followers that can't think on their own. It may be fun in the beginning because people look up to you and you're like, oh yes, I have a team. So many times people are like, oh, I have a team now. I'm a team leader, but they're not showing the leadership qualities. So make sure that you are helping your team grow and become strong. My goal is for my leaders to promote faster than I did and to be stronger leaders sooner than I was. And why is that? Because I made the mistakes and I'm not going to let them make those same mistakes. I'm going to help them be most productive. I'm going to help them grow as fast and as strong as they can. I don't want them to have to suffer through. My goal is for everybody on my team to I turned Emerald in 7 months. My goal is for everybody to turn Emerald faster than 7 months, because I say, this is what I did. Now take away all the things that I did wrong and let's put you on that path. Now, everybody's journey is completely different. Not everybody's going to do it in 4 months or 7 months or 12 months or even 18 months. It depends on how the business is and what season we're in and how things are going all the way around. But, you always want your team to be stronger than you. It is actually a compliment when someone on your team ranks faster than you do. It shows that you are a strong leader and that you helped propel them and guide them through this easier than you made it through, easier than the leadership that you had. Better, you became a better person. And isn't that how we are like with our kids? We want better for our kids. And our parents wanted better for us. And it should get better as the generations go on. And that's how it is in this business. It's not always about the highest paid person in the room. Just because I'm a Diamond ambassador, it doesn't mean I know more than Melissa. It doesn't mean I'm a better recruiter. It doesn't mean that I have better verbiage if I were to speak. It doesn't mean if we go to a training that I'm going to train better. Melissa has amazing skills and so many skills I learned from her. And, we work together and build on each other's strengths and we share ideas all the time and we just work really well together. But it doesn't mean just because I'm Diamond, I'm any better than she is. It doesn't mean that I'm any smarter than she is. So just because you're a higher rank than those on your team doesn't mean you're more elite in any way. So, remember that. Remember you should stay humble. Like Melissa says, when you strut, you stumble. And my saying like that is you climb the mountain to see the world, not for the world to see you. Once you make it to the top, you don't expect everyone to worship you and look at you as the almighty Diamond Plexus ambassador. You're there because you worked hard and you brought your team up with you. And the final thing is to work together. Be a strong unit and make everyone feel like they're part of the process. And just as important, your brand new ambassadors are just as important as your strong leaders that have been there forever. So that's all I have. Melissa, do you have anything else?
No, this is great. I think culture is so important, and that's really something you guys want to work on to establish a good, strong team culture. I think it's so important.
Absolutely. And like we said, reach out to your upline for assistance in this. We always want our downline to do better and to be stronger. And we will do what we can to help you build a strong team culture and really help propel your team down that path that will be most beneficial for you all. So I hope you guys have a fabulous night. We will see you guys next week on our team training that is open for everyone. Have a great night.
Bye, guys.